people expect to come straight out of uni having not got any experience and expect a really well-paid job, but realistically it's not like that. You have to gain the experience and show the eagerness to put on your CV, and employers look for your experience rather than just the certificate.
Hello, welcome to a very special edition of the No Choftes podcast on OLB. I'm your host, Stel, and I've got two fantastic guests with me right at this moment in time. First of all, it's the physical performance coach at Omonioia's Academy, Larkos Demetriou. Larko, you okay?
Hello, guys. I'm really good. How about you?
Very good. Great to have you on. Was it difficult?
Thank you very much.
Was it difficult getting permission to jump on this notorious podcast that everyone at the club knows?
No, it was all right.
That's all right. Fair enough. Okay, that's good. Say thank you to Andrea for us. Appreciate it.
I will.
Lovely. And my other guest, well, I've spoken to this guy on numerous occasions through WhatsApp and through Messenger, and I think we've had one conversation on the podcast before. But hey, it's the first time he's been on a Cypriot football podcast. It's Danny Fishwick, sports rehabilitator, first team squad, Wolverhampton Wanderers. How you doing, Dan?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. How are you feeling now? You know, the way that the season has panned out and everything.
It's not been the best season, but it's nice that we got an international break now, so we get to refresh, and then hopefully when we go back, it's improving, get to the end of the season.
What's it like when it's an international break, anyway? Because obviously the club has got loads of players that go on international duty. What about the ones that don't get called up? Do they come in for first team training and rehabilitation and all that?
Yeah, well, the injured players will carry on as normal, but the players that aren't selected, they'll come in and train. We'll normally get a bit more time off during this period, but they'll come in and do some training, and then it'll just be a normal week next week.
Must be a pretty quiet training ground then, huh?
Yeah, it's nice. It's been good because the last few times there's been most of them out on international, so it's been probably 6 or 7 left. So it's been quiet, and yeah, it's a good time.
It must be a ball ache though, knowing that some of them might come back injured, especially with the amount of games that they've got. I think, was it 2 or 3 games now, isn't it? Qualifiers.
Yeah, most of them are playing 3 games, so we're always watching closely, and we hope that they get through it unscathed.
Like that on front of the telly.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Well, Danny, tell us about your career, mate, because I know you worked at Bolton, you worked at a few other clubs, Huddersfield, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us a little bit about your journey to Wolves and mostly your academic path more than anything, because I know there are a lot of people in Cyprus that will be watching this who are studying sports science and want to effectively do what you're doing.
Yeah, well, it's been a long journey, to be honest. I did my A-levels at college and then decided there was a choice between physio and sports rehabilitation, and I got talked down the sports rehabilitation route because it's your way into sport, and obviously everyone wants to work in football and sport, so that sold me. But yeah, it was great. I did sports rehabilitation at the University of Bolton, 3 years of that. But I think the most important part of my career was working during that time while I was at uni. So I was doing voluntary work and learning from different physios and different people in different clubs, and just using all my time that I had free to work with different people and learn things and like put everyone's good bits into my catalogue. So yeah, from there in uni, I did lots of like voluntary experience, which helped me a lot. So I knew what it was going to be like as I progressed, and obviously it's been difficult because I graduated in 2010, and the first full-time job I got was in 2017. So it's a long process of having 3 jobs and working 7 days a week, but it's all about the hard work that got me to where I am at the moment. So not that the hard work stops, but the hard work's got me to where I am now.
Well, it isn't just one club you worked at, as you mentioned. You've done Huddersfield. I think you've done Wigan, the rugby team as well. So you haven't just focused on football. So effectively what you studied, it's rounded, isn't it? You can do different sports. But talk to me about the importance of voluntary work, because you do have a lot of people that will turn their nose up at the idea at working for free. They feel that once they've graduated, they can walk straight into a job, and that's not necessarily the case, is it? So how important was it for you to get that experience, not just doing it voluntary, but in terms of a networking perspective?
Yeah, it's 100%. While I was at uni, I took every opportunity. I think it's in a mindset that I personally wanted to take every opportunity I can. Like you mentioned, Wigan Warriors, we did a lot of work there. Lots of non-league teams: Stalybridge, Celtic, Northwich, Victoria, Ashton United. Then I did some work with Huddersfield. I think it's really important, not just because you're working for free, but it's also to get them skills practice that you're working on every day in uni. And like you say, people expect to come straight out of uni having not got any experience and expect a really well-paid job, but realistically it's not like that. You have to gain the experience and show the eagerness to put on your CV, and employers look for your experience rather than just the certificate.
Didn't you spend some time in Australia as well, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I had family move over to Australia in 2012, I think, maybe 2011, and went over there. And luckily, I got speaking to someone who was a manager at a non-league club over there, called Armadale, and he was from Preston, so not far from me. Got talking to him, did some work with him, and his wife was one of the masseuses at Perth Glory. So from there, managed to get into Perth Glory. So it was quite lucky, and through networking and things like that, that's how these things crop up. Sometimes it's total luck.
So what about their methods then? I presume they differ from the UK, but surely the weather must play a big part in your preparation, no?
Yeah, it was really different over there. They used to train first thing in the morning or later in the afternoon, because during the day it's way too hot, because their season runs the same as what the English season runs. So, and their summer is over Christmas, so it's unbearable. So they'll train when possible during the day. So that's, I think, used to train at 8 in the morning or later in the afternoon. And then obviously hydration's key, and all the other things that come with it. It's totally different. Obviously the principles say the same, but it's just done differently.
So talk to us about when you got the Wolves job. Did they headhunt you? Did you find out through a website? Were you recommended the job?
Well, when I was at Fleetwood, I was working with their academy, with their under-18s, and doing bits with the first team. And then Fleetwood expanded their academy, and my job changed from working with a team to working with lots of teams. So from under-9s all the way through to under-18s, and I'd do some work with the 23s and the first team. So I was doing a bit of everything. So during that time, I was looking for places to go to progress to just be first team. So during my time at Fleetwood, I had a few interviews at other places that didn't go to plan. I interviewed well, but I got good feedback from them, which I used and didn't put me down. I used it as a positive to use on my next interview. So my next interview went better than the last one. And then a job came up at Wolves. I saw it through FMPA, it's called, the Football Medical Performance Association. And luckily they invited me down. And the interview at Wolves was a bit different because I ended up working with them for a day. So yeah, voluntary work again. And luckily I got the job. So it was a good experience. I applied for the job like any other job. And got the phone call, come down when you're free. Did that, and then a month later I'm working with them, which was brilliant. Great step.
So that was what, 2017? We're talking about the beginning of 2017, right?
Yeah, it was March 2017.
And that was NOUNA in charge then, or did he take over in the summer?
I joined because when I was working my notice, they were struggling at the bottom of the championship. I think they lost 6 in a row, so I was a bit worried at that time, thinking, are they going to get relegated? Will that affect my job? It was when Paul Lambert was in charge.
Right. Okay.
So luckily, towards the end of my notice period, the results picked up, and I think they won the next 4 or 5, and they were safe from relegation, which was a relief. But yeah, from that summer, it's stepped up.
Can you imagine? And that summer, there's a whole host of signings, notably Portuguese players. I think Jota signed that summer, didn't he? But without shedding too much information about the club, how difficult is it, or was it at the time, to communicate with players that perhaps English wasn't obviously their first language, and maybe they spoke broken English? Was it difficult for you to communicate with them, or did they have a translator? How did it work?
We were lucky because we employed a Portuguese physio as well, so he was really good with the English. He's really good at English, probably better than me. A lot of the players that come in know English from school, so they might not be perfect, but they can get around the conversation. And if we struggled, we go through Rui, who was our Portuguese physio, and he was brilliant. Oh, he's brilliant. Yeah, there's a few players that will come in and they don't speak a word of English, but we work around that. I've been learning a bit of Portuguese, so I know a few bits.
You know the swear words first, don't you? That's what.
You know.
Listen, when I was at school, right, we had all the kids that didn't speak Greek, and the first words they knew were Malaga. All the swear words, they knew all the swear words before.
Even
they knew,
I know
like,
that one.
He knows it. What did Podenta teach you that one?
Yeah, that's his nickname. Nice. Yeah, obviously the swear words. I'm known for knowing all the swear words that work, and it gets everyone laughing. So that's the main thing. Get everyone's morale up. That's what I call it, a morale booster.
walk in the change room, caralho!
Exactly that.
Why are you still injured? Get up! Lovely, excellent. But one more question from me with regards to your role at the club. And again, I don't mean to pry, and you obviously you don't have to answer this one, but we had Project Restart last season in the Premier League, and I know a lot of clubs were frantically trying to, arrange everything from, disinfecting corner flags and all that kind of stuff and balls, which is understandable. But how difficult was it to make that transition, especially with no fans in the stadium?
The transition at first, it was something we weren't prepared for. Our doctor was brilliant all the way through, and he prepared us really well. With all the PPE and everything, with the cleaning, we just tried to do as best we can when that first started again. Obviously, the spread was awful at that time. We just tried to do everything as possible. We had inspectors from the Premier League every day coming checking. We were getting tested twice a week, so we could pick it up if it came. Obviously, we had people that were positive. People within the club, and then when that happened, they went away, followed all the government protocols and things like that. It was difficult at first, just getting into the new routines, because we're used to, say, me personally, I'd like to work with a player, and when I work with a player, it could be 45 minutes, an hour, but then our treatments and everything was cut to 15 minutes, and we were wearing all the PPE, as you'd imagine. So at first it was difficult, and getting into them routines and going into the gym. Only a certain amount of people were allowed in the gym. Only a certain amount of people were allowed in certain rooms. Changing room had to be split into 3 or 4. You weren't allowed to shower. You had to eat at home. You had to get changed at home. It was difficult at first, but then a year down the line, I think we were at Olympiacos at the time when it first started, and we were in the hotel the night before, and we were thinking the game was going to get called off. We got through the game and flew back, and as we were flying, all our phones vibrated when we landed that the games that weekend had been called off the Europa League had been cancelled, the Champions League had been cancelled. So it was mayhem at first. But then a year down the line, where it's our new norm, everything's the same as it was. But yeah, it's normal for us now, and I think it might even carry on after COVID, because our routines are safer, they're more sterile, blah blah blah, like that. It's been a process, but I think we're coming to the process where it's much better now.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, Larko, let's talk about your journey, Philemon, because your education was kind of put to a halt due to army service, isn't it?
Yes. Basically, I have to stop playing football because of the army. I had to make a decision. So I've made the decision, go to the army and then move to England to study. So I went to Southampton University, did my studies. As soon as I finished, came back to Cyprus. And I was looking for a way to come to Omonoia, basically, because I used to play there in the academies. So one day, a friend came and told me that there is a position there. It was a placement, basically, without getting paid, as Dan said before. So, I mean, this is my 5th year in the position. So I guess I've been doing good because they kept me. Yeah, that's it, basically.
But you spent some time in England, as you mentioned,
yes.
Southampton. Didn't you work for the club?
I was working for the club, but it was a different project. We basically had the privilege to do a voluntary work for 2 years as a coaching innovation project for the Southampton Foundation. My job basically was to develop a very known at the time and an award-winning healthy lifestyle program that was originally developed in Scotland. It was a football fans in training, if you know it.
Okay.
It was basically a healthy lifestyle program for men aged from 35 to 65.
Oh, that's me then. That's me then.
Which they had a waist of 38 inches or more, 36. And the BMI
36.
over 28.
I haven't checked that.
So our participants had the opportunity to take part in an educational workshop aimed to improve their knowledge and awareness towards healthy food and adopting a healthier lifestyle. So it was different from football, but football was a way for them to learn. So what we did was basically brought them to the club and did our workshops there and our physical training there. So we created a bond between the participants, and the results were really good, to be honest. So that's it. So it wasn't a football-related job, but yeah, so it was something different.
Yeah, but you've taken a lot of these skills to your role at Omonoia, obviously, and it's not just the educational side; it's the social side as well. I guess coming from Cyprus to the UK, all right, it's difficult to adapt to the weather for a start. But then again, the Cypriots love the English weather. My relatives coming from England, and from Cyprus, when it's raining, they open the bloody door. So what are you doing? But, there's that factor. But also, the culture, you're 4 or 5 hours away from your family on a plane. It must be difficult, especially at the beginning. But once you settle, English is practically a second language in Cyprus anyway. So I'm fortunate in saying that. So
yeah, we're doing our best with the language.
Doing very well. So tell me about your role at Omonoia then, or tell me what you can tell us about your role at Omonoia. You're in the academy, and as you know, we've got a few very promising youngsters in the first team, which has been remarkable. And did you have any communication with Jesper Fredberg? I think that's around about the time.
Jesper Fredberg was it was my first football director when I arrived. Basically, my job now is to develop our players' performance and to prevent injuries. Basically, by designing and implementing our daily, weekly, and then monthly training plans. This was before COVID, basically. Now it's different to plan more than a week because we are still training groups.
Mhm.
I'm also responsible for the GPS performance analysis and the return to play strategies for injured players. I think we are doing good. As you said, we have a lot of guys in the first team now. Hopefully, many more to come. Yeah.
So this is a question I need to ask both of you guys. Obviously, return to play and return to form are two completely different things. But how much emphasis is there on, you know, the return to form element? Because you obviously can't force a player to be the player that they were prior to picking up an injury. But how do you help them from the rehabilitation side? Obviously, their training on the pitch, you know, shooting, crossing, etc., has got a massive impact on it. But you guys, as a whole, what you guys do with your job, how do you help them kind of get a step closer to that return to form?
In my case, I think the job is much easier,
Right?
because my job is to develop the players. So if we need to take extra time, I mean, we can't do it, because we need to focus on what's coming for the player in the following years. I'm really excited to hear about Dan and the pressure he has, because he works in a top club, in the top championship. Yeah, Dan?
Yeah, well, obviously when a player comes back from injury, it's especially when it's a top player, the rush is on to get them back. Sometimes it's not spoken that there's a rush on, but you can feel the pressure whether results aren't going well and things like that. You want these players back. So to get them back is one thing. To get them back to form is something totally different. We just need to make sure from our point of view that imbalances are balanced. So if you've got a hamstring injury, say, and everything else, that hamstring injury is as strong as it was before and as strong as the other hamstring, for example. Just making sure they're as strong and they're as prepared to train every day to the highest level as possible. Whether that be, we can do everything physically, we can do things mentally. It's a lot of it will be mental, psychological, whether that be confidence, or we need to try and build that confidence through our rehab sessions. So it's not just a case of the injury being fixed and then you back out training. You have to work yourself towards a training fitness before you go out to train. And then in training, that's when you build your fitness to be involved in the matches. So it's a long process, but it's got everyone involved. It's got sports medicine, it's got sports science, it's got psychologists involved, it's got the coaches, because the coaches are, it goes from the physio room to the gym to the sports science department to the rehab, and then the coaches are the last step. So the coaches have a big influence as well.
Forgive me for sounding quite naive here, Dan, but I'm glad you mentioned the psychological aspect of it, because let's say, for example, you've got a player that goes in for a 50-50 challenge and they suffer a double leg break and they go through the rehabilitation and they're ready to play, they get back on the pitch. How do you get them back in the mind state where, regardless of what happened previously, if there's another 50-50 to be won, how do you get them set to go back in for that, to avoid the fear of breaking that or getting that injury again?
Well, there's only so much you can do. If you in training, you build yourself up to put yourself in situations. That situation might not come, but they have to be confident to go into different tackles, different type of situations, and without, you're not going to put them into a 1v1 where they could potentially break it again. But you all know that when you get an injury, an impact injury, the first thing you do when you go back is get a kick on that area. It happens, and you can't prepare them 100%, but the training sessions will, and getting that confidence to join in and do everything in them training sessions will put you in that best position to get there in the end or in a match day. Obviously we can't get to that last step, but that's them, and the day that they go into that 50-50 tackle and come out unscathed, that's them forgotten about it.
Fair enough. Brilliant. Larko, before we carry on, can you explain to Dan the state of Omonia's youth academy prior to Fredberg coming in? Because I mentioned him earlier, and I think it's important that Danny knows this, because obviously, Wolves have played many clubs with a budget, there's probably the same, if not less than Omonia's. But right now, the club's going through some kind of renaissance at the moment, because we're seeing a lot of youngsters break through into the first team, something that we haven't seen since probably the days of Kostas Gayafa, if I'm not mistaken. Omonia have been used to signing players, Dan. It's mostly, in the past, it's been Eastern European players, a few Germans here and there, African players. But now Henning Berg, who's our head coach, and you being a Blackburn Rovers fan, are quite pleased about that. But, Henning is obviously giving youth a chance. We played against AEK at the beginning of the season. I think he played 7 academy players, 5 started and 2 were on the bench, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a massive change. But yeah, Larko, sorry, you could just tell Dan the state of Omonia's academy prior to Jesper taking over, and obviously since, so to speak.
Yeah. Before Jesper, to be honest, the last experience I had with the club was before I stopped football. It was 3 or 4 years before Jesper came. The state of the club, we didn't even have a fitness coach, to be honest. Only a coach. Physiotherapists were external from the club. They didn't work for the club. And basically, since 2016 and after, and the last 2 years, to be honest, we are full in every position. We don't have the medicine team and the science team like Wolves, for example. We may have to do more than one job, each coach, but we are heading in a very good direction. And the results, we can show the results with the first team and the players that went there. So, the future looks bright.
Yeah, it looks bright. So yeah, we've got, how many players are in international, Gina, for the national team, Larko? So you've got Jonis, Loizu, Panayis.
Yeah, we even have with the under 21s. So I think we have, I'm not sure, to be honest, more than 10.
It's quite a few, which is, again, Dan, I mean, looking at this club, as I said before, we've had a lot of foreign players playing for the club, but recently a lot of the Cypriot youngsters are breaking through, and unfortunately, they sacked the Cypriot national team manager, who had a very good reputation, Valem, who was a Belgian, wasn't he, Larko? And it was the Belgian under-21 national team. So he broke through the likes of Benteke and Batshuayi, and we thought that he'd be given the opportunity to do it for the Cypriot national team, but unfortunately that didn't work out. But he was blooding a lot of youngsters, which is something that we need to see as a nation. A small island, it's only 1 million people on the island, so but. Yeah, anyway, but yeah, as Larko says, the future's bright, the future's green.
Yes.
So, Larko, I'm sure you've got some questions for Dan and vice versa. I'll let you guys take over. I've been dominating too much. I'll leave it down to you guys now.
Yeah, basically, what I really want to know, and I think the fans will want to know, because everyone is watching the games, but no one is knowing what happens behind the cameras. So what I would like to know is what is it like on a match day for you?
For me personally?
Yes.
Okay, so on a match day, I'll aim for a home game. I'll aim to get to the ground for around 3 hours before kickoff, because there's lots to set up. There's ice baths to fill. There's making sure everything's out for all the players and things like that. We always stay in a hotel the night before, so we alternate who does what. So the medical team aren't all in every hotel, because we try to alternate it to give each other time to do other things. I'll get there 3 hours before. I'll set up all the emergency equipment, make sure it's checked over, make sure we've got everything. To make sure everything's right. And then the team will turn up an hour and a half before the game. And that's when the mayhem begins. Get everything done. The players all need preparing, whether that be activating, doing treatments, doing their usual routines. We try to keep it to the same people. Some players are very superstitious, so they'll go to the same person for their treatments, and they'll go into activate, and then they'll go and warm up. From my point of view, that's more or less it until the game. When they're warmed up, I'll go out and help where I'm needed. and then during the game, we have a run on physio, and when he can't make it, that I step in, or when he's ill or anything, I'm there on standby. But apart from that, I have a tablet in front of me, and through Hawkeye, who do all the VAR and everything, so I've got the tablet in front of me.
So you can watch
zoom in.
every situation.
Yes, it's basically I'm 3 seconds behind the game. I can go back, zoom in, I can see every angle, I can rewind it, I can go slow motion. So I'm on a radio connected to the person that's running on the pitch. So if there's a head injury like there were in the last game, we can see that 3 or 4 times to make sure, see if there's anything we need to communicate to the people on the pitch. And then because they don't necessarily see it all, and we can see things which they can't. So we just communicate as best we can, and then we help out. So obviously there was a head injury in the last game, so as soon as we found out that he was like knocked out, we went and helped out and helped him get off the pitch. So and then after that he'd stay in with players after the game, assessing injuries and any knocks, and then we recover the day after.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a busy day, but that's what we aim for every week. Everyone aims for the game, so as long as it's a positive result, it's all good.
In my opinion, the relationship we develop with our players is really important for our work to be done correctly. Obviously, in my case, it's much easier, but I wanted to know what is your opinion on the subject and how is it working with top players from all over the world?
We're lucky because our group of players, I know everyone will say the same, but our group of players are a really, really good group. There's no what they call bad eggs. Everyone gets on. I think I've got a good rapport with all the players, and like a friendly rapport, like a matey kind of rapport. We can be authoritative, but we can also be friendly, and we know when it's serious and when it's not. So I think everyone's the same, and I think that's the kind of mentality the coaching staff have brought in, that everyone's, like they always say, we're a pack, and we all work together as a family. We see each other more than we see our families, and it's a really good atmosphere. And I think, like you say, it's easier to build a rapport with children, but these are just big kids, so.
I think they'll mind you saying that. It's funny, Dan, because I remember talking to Lee Harper, that used to play for back in the day, when Gary Lewin was physio. And it was around about the time when Eva Carneiro had that massive fallout with Mourinho, which way you want to see it. And Harp said to me, that's one of the biggest mistakes Mourinho will ever make, because the physios are the ones that get to know the players on a personal level. You know, the players are injured, they're sitting on the bench, talking to their physios, talking about their problems at home, talking about this and that. It's their form of escapism, and effectively, you guys are, kind of like, I don't know, the counsellors in some respect, aren't you?
Yeah, it is like that as well. Like, you'll see a lot of players will come into the physio room because it's the hub of the training ground. You'll come in and everyone's either laughing, or they'll come in when they're not feeling great and they'll rant. You get every kind of atmosphere in the physio room, and I say it's a compliment to us, but I think it'd be the same at every club around the world, really.
Yeah, I bet your kit man gets a lot of stories as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, the kit men are brilliant, to be fair, and they'll hear it all as well.
Absolutely. Larko, up to you, mate. Don't worry.
I have one more question. Basically, it's not my question. One of my players saw Stel's story about the show, and he wanted to ask, what was your impression the first time you saw Adama Traore?
I think it's the same as everyone else. I was probably scared a bit, a bit scared, and wondering what he was like. Obviously, you expect him to be in the gym all the time and things like that, and it's publicised that he's not always in the gym. He'll do his bits, but he's a proper professional. So he'll keep himself ticking all the time, and he's always busy doing bits, but he's not lifting weights all the time. But yeah, he's an absolute. He's a tank. He's brilliant. He's looks after himself really well. He's absolutely huge, but apart from that, he's a nice guy as well. There's a few times he fights with everyone, like play fights, and if he gets you into a grip, you're not getting out of it. I say that from experience.
Oh, mate. Like a WWE wrestler or something, mate. Jeez.
Oh, it's crazy. But yeah, he's a really, really, really top guy.
Right. Dan, have you got any questions for Larko by any chance?
How do you see the difference between, say, English football? I know hopefully you'll have seen the academy system at Southampton when you were down there. But how do you see the differences between the two, between England and Cyprus?
Our game is much slower.
Mhm.
I think this is because we like to bring older players, foreign older players, and this slows our game a bit, I think. Obviously, we need to work more on our academies. We are not on the right level in terms of sports science. We need more. We have 2 or 3 teams that they are trying their best, but the rest, I think they are levels below. So we need to help the rest if we need to move up. Yeah, we have 2 or 3 teams that they're really good and they can compete in Europe, but the rest, they need a bit more help. That's what I think. I think we have talent, but we need to lay down the right foundations in our academies so we can help them grow the right way. Yeah.
Well, what about the training facilities, though? Because I know there's talk about the stadium, the training ground being redeveloped in the future. I think there's 5 million euros being spent on that. But what you have at the moment, in terms of the facilities and everything, does that help you get by, or do you feel that, obviously with the money that's coming in, it's going to make your job a lot easier?
With what we have now, I mean, we had new things coming in the last 2 years. We are complete as an academy for what we have here in Cyprus. And the GPS help very much. But of course, our job will be much easier now with a new training ground. I mean, if you see it, it's amazing. Basically, it's close to a Premier League level. I'm excited. Yep.
But that's the vision of Babastavro, and obviously with someone like Henning Berg there, he's not going to settle with a bang average training facility. Obviously, it's a long-term project, and look, we don't know how long Henning Berg's going to be there for. Hopefully, he'll be here for a long time. But with Larko and Babastavro and everyone else in the background, it's a long-term project. And to be fair, with the season that we've had, especially getting into the Europa League group stage for the first time in our history, it's something that we can build on. And I think that's the difference between us and all the other clubs. Apoel have been very successful, but if you look at them now, they're struggling. And for a team that's won 7 titles in a row?
Yep.
For them to be in the bottom half of the table, they were almost in the relegation zone this season with McCarthy, which was a bit funny. Very funny, actually, to be honest. But yeah, like I said, we've got the infrastructure there, we've got the staff there, and the thing is, Dan, I mean, I can tell that at Wolves, there's the camaraderie is there. Everyone sings from the same hymn sheet, and it's the same with Omonoia. And I think it's a cultural thing as well. Once you get immersed in the culture of the club, it's very difficult to look elsewhere and care what other people think or say about their own teams.
Yeah, I agree. I think the total part of the club has been brilliant since the manager came in, and he's set everyone straight. He wants to be like a pack with everybody, and everyone's going in the same direction. So I think last year was unbelievable. I think when we got through to the quarterfinals of the Europa League, we were together the most we've ever been, and it was a great experience to be part of.
I can imagine, mate. Absolutely fantastic. Well, Larko, have you got anything else to ask Dan before we wrap it up?
I want to know what is the top 3 stadiums you've played with Wolves.
Good one. Good one.
We're lucky to get to the FA Cup semi-final. It's 2 years ago now, and that was at Wembley. So obviously that's number one. The new Tottenham Stadium is very nice. So that was just unbelievable, breathtaking, and as good as everyone can imagine.
Was there fans in the stadium then, Dan? Was there fans at the?
Yeah, and we won as well.
1-0. Was it 1-0?
I think it was 3-2 or 3-1.
3-2.
Yeah, I think I'll have to have a look. Raul scored.
Because they're talking about the acoustics. Apparently, they based it on Dortmund's stadium, I think, or something on the lines of the COP, or they call it.
Yeah,
the wall, the yellow wall. Yeah.
No. It's an amazing place. So yeah, Wembley, Tottenham, and I like the old grounds. Obviously, I'm from up north, so Old Trafford is one that I've always wanted to be at, and I've been there a few times now. But my favourite one is Fulham, just because it's really, really old school, and they've got like the wooden seats, and they've got the cottage in the corner, and that's the one that I really, really like. And
you got the river as well. The ball goes out the stadium.
Yeah, exactly. So when they eventually build on that or whatever they do, it'll be a shame. But yeah, it's one of my favourites, that one.
Listen, next time you go, see where they put the Michael Jackson statue, because I don't know where it's gone. Like they took it away. Like when Al Fayed went, is it somewhere in the stadium? They hidden it under the pitch? I don't know.
That's our next away game, so I'll ask the question.
Thank you. Brilliant. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. This was fun. This was really, really fun. And I hope we can do this again sometime. And maybe we could do like an Ask Dan forum. Listen to stuff and Great stuff. Well, Dan, thank you very much for your time, mate. Before I let you go, do you want to promote anything? Because I know you do a lot of charity work. Have you got anything in the pipeline or anything coming up?
Not at the moment. I know we do work for a couple of charities, so Cure Leukemia, and that's through Twitter on @WolfSportsMed. Also, it was World Down Syndrome Day yesterday, so I do a bit of work for a charity called Twincest. So on Twitter, that's Twincest1. So if you want to have a look at that as well, it's just, let's spread the word.
Great stuff. Larko, anything from you, my friend?
Thank you for having me, man.
A pleasure. Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
No, pleasure's all mine, mate. Pleasure's all mine. Have you got any social media you want to plug? I know you're on Instagram a little bit.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm fine with social media.
I'm not going to tell anyone.
No, I'm okay.
Lovely. Excellent. Well, guys, that was another episode of No Choff. There's something different to what you guys are used to, but yeah, hit us up on social media. I'm at CHESTEL on Instagram. We have, obviously, we're on a YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, tell your NOUNA. So until next time, come on, Larko, tell me what I'm going to say. Come on. What do I normally say? Come on. Come on, finish it off.